Hey everyone, it's Renee Jayne here, and today I want to talk with you about the idea around sugar addiction or sugar binging or overeating of sugar and a little different spin on it. If you like this video, make sure you press the like button, and if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below. This is a big topic and I really love to engage and have conversation. More and more people started coming to me with issues around sugar. They would say things, well, I have this issue, but my husband doesn't, or I have this issue, but my wife doesn't. They don't seem to have a problem. Like, no one else in my family seems to have this problem. As I sit here in recovery from sugar, I put it in quotes because a lot of people don't associate these things as, you might think of alcohol or drugs, but there really is a recovery of sugar, and it's a process where we learn to understand where we are on that addiction scale, and that it's the reason that differentiates that some person that we might know in our life can eat a bunch of sugar and not even be affected by it, and then probably never touch it for months and months again and feel just fine, and why there's so many others of us who have just a little bit of it and it throws us completely off, and like we have to have more, or we get headaches, or our body reacts, and we have intense cravings, and all kinds of things start to show up. I'm having this flashback right now. I remember somebody hired me to coach them, and often I've coached couples, but I primarily coach people one-on-one or in groups. I coach groups of people. This particular person hired me, and then they brought in their husband, and then they asked if they could bring in their whole family and their children. And I had done that a couple times before, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we're sitting in this big circle, the whole family, and I remember one of the children, they were so afraid that I was going to take sugar out of their house for the rest of their life. They looked at me like this evil lady who was going to remove their sugar from their house. And from the lens of a child, I can completely relate to that. And I remember being a child, sugar was my life, like cotton candy and caramel corn and Easter and Halloween. And I worked at Dairy Queen at age 14 so I could have more access. Like, it was the stuff. So what I want to just chat briefly about is that sugar, there's a lot of different studies out there. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but you can give it a Google and look it up. But there are legitimate studies that show how addictive sugar is to our physical body. In fact, they compare it to cocaine or heroin. And so when we consume a lot of sugar, our body physically gets addicted to it. The other aspect of sugar is that we have such an exposure to it that we don't realize how much we're consuming because it's hidden in so many different things. So even people who say, like, I don't eat that much sugar, I don't have a sweet tooth, I don't go buy donuts every day, all that stuff. What they don't often realize is that sugar's hidden in their bread and their salad dressing and their ketchup and in their favorite healthy natural crackers that are sold at the store, right? Like, all these different things have so much sugar added to them. And because the industry, the food industry, knows that if they can hide in sugar in all these different places and they can disguise it under different kinds of names, that we as consumers won't notice, and yet will become more addictive and will buy more and more of their food. And they're right, we do. The average adult is consuming well over about 25 grams of sugar a day, and children probably more than that every single day. You have to start to look at, like, who are we blaming in this industry? Because we want to point fingers as human beings. We want to be like, it's your fault, right? And I could actually make a really good argument today for the food industry and why they are needing to take a big stake in the blame area, so to speak, right? I could make a whole video about that. I'm not going to do that today. I will probably save my energy for that for another day, and then potentially be lobbying on Washington, D.C. steps with other people to, like, change how our laws are written and what we're allowed to know goes into our food, right? So that is important for us to know. There's also an argument to be made, if we are to point the blame finger, at, like, the culture of magazines, right? And how, one particular look seems to be the look of the body, when in reality, that's not what people's bodies look like. And so, we have this idea that we're supposed to look a certain way. And then there's also an idea that you can just drink, if you were to watch any soda commercial, as much soda as you want and still look wonderful and great. But the reality is that there's so many people who are so addicted to soda, and they're gaining on average 10 pounds every year the longer they stay in addiction to their daily drinking habit of soda. They're not going to look like the healthy people in the commercial. And so there's this advertising that's being sent to us, and this messaging and this marketing and this culture. I keep thinking about this kid who, going back to my first story, who was like so afraid I was going to take sugar away from him forever. He was thinking that I was going to make sugar out to be the bad guy. And so what I want to share with you today is just this brief idea that, when it comes to addiction to things like sugar, for example, there is a sliding scale, right? And so on that scale, we could fall into any place. And some people have a physiology in their body that makes them more prone to addiction than other people. Some people have different upbringings that make them more prone to acting out addictively than other people. They might have dealt with a lot of childhood trauma. They might have dealt with a lot of emotional abuse as a child. They might have had abandonment things that came up. There might have been physical abuse. There's a lot of different factors that create a situation where a person shows up to function as an addict. And an addict isn't a bad thing. Addiction is just a way that we cover up pain. And so sometimes when people come to me and they want help with their addictive behaviors around sugar, they tend to think that it's just like, I want to blame all these outside things, or that they need to just get it out of their house. And sometimes those things work. Sometimes those things work by just getting it out of our house and like changing our focus. And then sometimes it doesn't work. And it's not because you're bad or you're wrong, or you don't have enough willpower, or, we start to shame ourselves. We think, gosh, I just can't do anything. I haven't been able to get this sugar out of my life, We have all these stories we tell ourselves. But what it just really means is that there might be some deeper seated things where we have just learned, and this has happened in my case. I learned as a child, I was given, treats, and I was told to keep it quiet and keep it secret. Like, here's some candy, don't tell anyone, and I was told that was like a safe, familiar thing to me, is to so what did I do as I grew up? I would sneak and have candies and treats and keep it secret, right? And it became familiar, and it actually became like a comfort for me. And that turned into me becoming addicted to sugar. So we can't blame the sugar itself anymore. The moral of this story is that we must actually start to come back to ourselves, and we must start to look at our own habits, our own ability to relate intimately with our food and our bodies, and how we are trusting ourselves and our bodies to take care of us. So there's so much more here. And what I really want to do is I want to invite you, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below so we can continue the conversation at reneejayne.com. It's ReneeJayne.com. I have a 7-day free sugar challenge. So if you're interested, or you feel like you need to take something like that on, of service to you, please check it out, because it might be able to give you some tools to kickstart your process of what I call recovery of sugar. And then for those of you who need more deeper help, I have a program called My Nutrition 360, which is a group coaching program where we really take a look at our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual self all together to really get to the bottom of how we relate to our body and how we relate to our food. So again, let's not point so much to the outside world and all the sugar industry and everything, and let's start to look inward and look at how we are relating to our food. And as Rob Scott often says, everything is perfect and there's a lot to do. So as we're inward and we look at ourselves, then let's also stand up to our food industry and get some change done, all at the same. All right, so good to see and be with all of you. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.